Hailing from the great cold state of Alaska, I am the Frozen Gamer, and today I want to talk to you guys about PlayStation games coming to PC. So, a little while ago I had released a video talking about the rumor at the time that Horizon Zero Dawn would be coming over to PC. And it actually has been confirmed now. The current head of Sony Worldwide Studios, who's former managing director of Guerrilla Games, Herman Holst, recently stated in an interview that Horizon Zero Dawn is coming to PC this summer. And there's more details that have been released. Basically, it's up on Steam store page. You can look into this a bit more if you want. But it's going to include essentially everything that was included in the complete edition that came out for PS4, which is what I have. And we don't know if there's going to be any sort of PC exclusive features. I'm assuming it'll have mouse and keyboard support. Nothing confirmed though yet. Personally, I think that the game in some ways might be better with mouse and keyboard. I mean, aiming obviously is always going to be better with mouse and keyboard. However, the movement I'm not sure about. And I think I may end up testing this out. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to get the game. But the idea of playing it at a high frame rate is very appealing. So, what this really brings up though is, could anything else come to PC? I mean, could other games come? I had speculated, that there were some things I'd like to see, but now it just seems like there's even more of a chance. And so, the same guy who was interviewed said that Sony's open to new ideas of how to introduce more people to PlayStation, and of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to release a bunch more PS4 games on PC, but there is actually some job listings that hint at the possibility of The Last of Us 2 getting a PC port. That could be really interesting if that happens. But once again, it's one of those things that it's like, okay, Sony hasn't said anything for sure. However, this guy also said that just because this one first-party AAA title is coming to PC doesn't necessarily mean that every game will now come to PC. He says, in my mind, Horizon Zero Dawn was just a great fit in this particular instance. We don't have any plans for day-and-date PC releases, and we remain 100% committed to dedicated hardware. So, there's some important things to pick out of this. First of all, the fact that he says, we don't have plans for day-and-date PC releases. Now, I think the PC releases, this is what PC Gamer put in brackets. He didn't actually say PC releases, but obviously that was essentially implied by what he said. So, they haven't... Basically, they said no plans for day-and-date PC releases. So, in other words, PS5 is undoubtedly going to still get the games first. There's no question about it. I mean, in some cases, PS4 games like The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima are both coming to PS4. I'm sure that there are others as well that will end up coming over still. But overall, let's just say PS5. So, the fact that they're just simply saying that we don't have plans for day-and-date release and that they remain committed to the hardware, that's, to me at least, that seems to indicate that even though it's not going to come out same day, it may even be years away, years in between, like they're doing with Horizon Zero Dawn. It could still very well still release the games on PC. Now, how soon after, that's the part that's hardest to say, because Horizon Zero Dawn is coming over 3 years after its original release. If you look at even just the complete version, that came out, I want to say, December 2017. I'm pretty sure, because that's when they released the Frozen Wilds. So even if, let's say, they decided to do 3 years, that could mean that God of War, that came out in 2018, could come out next year. But then, there's still definitely the potential for more games to come over. And this is me just putting on my tinfoil hat, kind of speculating some different things that could come over that I personally think would be great fits for PC. Now, one of the most obvious ones, as I've mentioned before, is God of War. The game is fantastic, and I wish more people could play it, but there are lots of people out there who don't have PlayStation, who have no desire to buy a PlayStation, and aren't going to buy it for just one game. And on the regular PS4, which is what I have, it runs at 30 frames per second, which is perfectly fine. The game still runs really well. It plays really well. PS4 Pro can do it at 1080p 60 frames per second, though. Now, I wasn't about to go buy a PS4 Pro just to play this game at a higher frame rate. It's just not quite worth that to me, spending $400 for one game. But if they brought this game over to PC, just imagine how fast this game could run. I wish I could show you guys what a game looks like at those 100 plus frames per second. I mean, there's even higher than that. My computer only goes up to 144 because of my video card, which eventually I'm upgrading. But the way that it feels playing a game at such a high frame rate is so much different from how it feels at 30. And I mean, 60 frames per second is still excellent. I still love 60 frames. But anytime there's an option for higher frame rates, I definitely take advantage of it. And like in playing Destiny 2 as a good example, it's just so miles different playing at that 120 frames per second, which is typically what I get up to on average. And it's so smooth. Now, I would rather have a consistent, always locked, never dropping below 60 frames per second than having it like fluctuate between 60 and 120. Or, well, I should say, I would rather have it be consistent at 60 than occasionally jump up to 120, but then kind of float more between like 60 and 80, because it can be a little more distracting. But at the same time, higher frame rates in general just make the games play better. It's smoother, it's more responsive, and I'm going on a tangent. So let's get past God of War. Another game that I think would be absolutely amazing on PC is SpiderMan. Now, SpiderMan was one of those games that I didn't, much like God of War, I didn't play it until last year. I waited because I knew that I was going to want to devote a bunch of time to it, and I didn't feel like in 2018 I really could get invested in it as much as I wanted to. So I waited, and then it ended up going down to 50% off for the complete edition, and that was sometime in 2019. I want to say it was like May or June, maybe. I can't remember. But anyway, the point is that it went down in price, and I jumped on it, and I loved that game. I didn't finish the last DLC pack, but I finished everything else. I have the Platinum Trophy, and I think I got all the trophies for the first 2 DLC packs. I could be wrong about that. I didn't do the New Game Plus, of course, but even so, excellent game, and that one running at super high frame rates would be... I mean, like, that game is already so smooth, and it plays really, really well, but you don't realize how much better higher frame rates are until you experience them. And for a game like that, it would just be amazing. Now, I do think that most likely both God of War and Spider-Man will play at 60 frames per second by default on PS5. Most likely. There's a very solid chance of that. But I'm still not sure if I'm getting a PS5 or how soon I am. And with the possibility of PlayStation games coming over to PC, I'm questioning it even more. I mean, because it just seems like this could really happen. And this could be a reason for me to skip the PS5. Now, I will say that regardless of whether I buy a PS5 or not, I will definitely get the controller, because I'm looking forward to checking it out. I love the DualShock 4. Previous iterations, less so. I loved them at the time. I don't like them nearly as much now. But I definitely would say that the PS5 controller will be worth getting. And even if I don't get a PS5, I'll get that controller. But going back into different other games that could come over to PC that I would like to see, another one would be Infamous. Any of the games. I mean, really, I'd like to see them bring over all 4, plus the DLCs. But even just bringing over Second Son would be fantastic. And I know most people would consider Second Son to be the lowest. It's not as good as the other ones, and I would agree with that. I still think 2 is my absolute favorite, and then 1 follows right behind that, and Second Son is third. But even saying that it's third of 3, it's not because it's not great. It's still great. I just started getting back into it, continuing my Evil playthrough, working towards the Platinum Trophy, and man, that game is still so great. And if they could bring that over, and First Light, and Infamous 1 and 2, and Festival of Blood, all of those would be so great to have on PC, and once again, high frame rates. You could potentially have mods that could improve the visuals. I would love to see them improve the visuals of especially the first game. Even if they kept exactly the same art style and everything, just kind of like clean up the textures a bit. Maybe make the visual style fit the comic book cutscenes that they have a little bit better. I don't know. I mean, I don't want it to be too cartoony, but there's also kind of like a shift in colors between the first and the second game, with the second game being much brighter, and I feel like them doing that for the first game, something like that could be really nice. And, you know, once again, mouse and keyboard controls. I mean, that is one game where I actually think it would probably work pretty well, because the reality is, like, the melee attacks are by far the one thing that are the weakest aspect of the combat. But I could easily see, you know, mapping all of the different other attacks to a mouse, or, you know, mouse and keyboard, and it controlling really, really well. Another series that I'd like to see is Ratchet and Clank. Especially the remake of the first game. Now, I played all the way through Ratchet and Clank 2. I had started the original, but the input delay was really bad on both the PS3 and the Vita versions. I can't speak about the PS2 version, but it was bad enough to where it made it difficult, and there were just other things about it that were not so great, whereas 2 was really, really good. And what I played of 3, I really enjoyed as well. And then, of course, the remake that they did on PS4 is, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful game, and it's another one of those where you improve the frame rate on it, and it would make it an even better game than it already is. So, beyond that, you know, with the I mean, it looks like Last of Us 2 at least could very well come over to PC. I mean, I think that if they're going to bring over Last of Us 2, they might as well bring over the first one as well for people to experience. Because The Last of Us is a really, really good game. For me personally, it's not one where I think I would play it again, because it's just a little bit too tense for me to fully enjoy. But I do have to say, it's still really good. And obviously the story is excellent. I mean, visually, it's a beautiful game. And I'm sure The Last of Us 2 will not disappoint in that area either. But all that being said, this is basically hypothetical. You know, we don't really know for sure if any other games could come over, if they will come over. I mean, but at the same time, there's lots of things that I never thought would leave PlayStation, like Final Fantasy. You know, I remember a while back, there was, you know, I did some crazy third-party Nintendo Direct predictions for E3 2018, And I suggested Final Fantasy XII coming over to Switch. And not only did Final Fantasy XII come over to Switch, we ended up getting 7, 8, 9, 10, 10-2, and 12. And, I mean, if I had known at the time that it was actually going to happen, you know, I might have stopped playing on PS4 and just waited for the Switch version. I definitely would not have bought the PC version if I had known. But instead, I've now bought the game 4 times between PS2, PS4, PC, and Switch. And I played it to completion twice of those 4 times. So, I don't know. It's really hard to say whether or not any of these games could come over, but it's definitely making me really consider waiting a while on PS5. And there could be something that could change my mind. I have no doubts about that. I may very well find that they decide to launch with the next God of War, or with a new SpiderMan, or I don't know, something like that. And if they launch with one of those games and give the option for 60 frames per second or higher, it might be harder to resist. But we'll see how it goes. So what are your thoughts? I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think that it's a pipe dream to actually have PlayStation games on PC? Or do you think that maybe the fact that they're bringing over Horizon Zero Dawn, in addition to the fact that we already were going to be getting, in fact, actually, it's also coming this summer, Death Stranding. And we've already gotten all the Quantic Dream games that were originally PlayStation exclusives. And they've pretty much stated, Square Enix has stated in advance, that Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be a timed exclusive for PS4. Or for PlayStation in general. My guess is for I think they said maybe for a year, but I don't remember. Either way, it just should be a really interesting thing going forward. And even if they decide to delay things and make it so that it takes a year or more for some of these things to come out, I might be willing to just wait. I mean, it's not like I have a shortage of games to play. So, let me know what you guys think. Until next time, this has been The Frozen Gamer, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.